Story time! I used to run an in-home daycare, and I'm going to tell you about the first client I ever had who taught me all the hard lessons the hard way. We will call the mom Carla and the son William. And at the time, she was married to a man we will call John. John was not the bio father of either of her children, but he did adopt William, and William had his last name. When I first took William on as a client, I had Carla sign a very weak policy contract and handbook. The contract wasn't very detailed and wasn't very strict because at the time I believed most people would just do the right thing. I also set my hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because I believed most parents wouldn't leave their child at daycare for 12 hours. I wanted to be flexible and available for my clients, but don't worry, I changed everything up eventually. I also was one of the cheapest options in town. This caused me to attract some less than ideal clients. I also provided meals for the kids in my care, but Carla insisted that she would pack William's meals because he was picky. And I said, okay. William was 3 and he was the same age as my oldest daughter at the time, and they got along great. I would watch the kids Monday through Friday, and I got paid on Friday. This policy was changed later on. At first, things were fine with William, and he blended in great with the other clients I started taking on. I did notice that Carla would always send William with his iPad, which struck me as odd because he was only 3. And he would play it obsessively all day long. I eventually started taking it away and putting it on top of the refrigerator because it was distracting him from eating and from doing our other activities. Once he stopped actually napping at nap time, I did allow him to watch it while the others slept, which is something I probably would not have allowed today. Anyway, I kept parents up to date with what the kids were doing, what they were eating, and what activities were going on through an app called ProCare. All the parents downloaded the app except Carla, which was mildly annoying because I would have to verbally tell Carla what was happening that day instead of her being able to look it up herself. A big concern of Carla's was what and how much William had ate that day, which is something I would actually take pictures of and send to the ProCare app for the parents. William was not a big eater, and he would often refuse both the meals I provided and the meals that were sent in his lunchbox. I noticed that the foods that were being sent from home to daycare for William to eat were not the healthiest. It was always a Yoo-hoo, which is a chocolate beverage with Cheez-Its and snack cakes and other similar snack items. These meals started to lower and lower in nutritional value as the months went on. In October, he was only sent to daycare with a Yoo-hoo and a handful of Halloween candy. And eventually she would send him with only a Yoo-hoo and an unmicrowaved bag of popcorn, which I refused to give him because popcorn is considered a choking hazard to 3-year-olds, and it was a hazard and a liability to my program. Anyway, we marched on and continued our day-to-day activities. One day, Carla asked me to watch William on a Saturday, which is not a part of my schedule, but she would pay me extra. So I went ahead and did it, and we had a fun day, and William and my daughter had a lot of one-on-one time, and we played at the park. Not long after, she asked me to watch William late at night because it was her wedding anniversary, and her husband had gotten them basketball tickets. I didn't want to do it, but against my better judgment, I did, and they ended up picking William up after midnight. But again, she paid me extra, so I didn't fuss. Eventually, she asked me to watch William overnight. I don't remember her reason, but I went ahead and obliged, and it started a pattern. She even asked me to watch her 7-year-old when school was not in session, even though my program only accepts children 4 and under, and against my better judgment, I still did it. People pleasing, it's a real problem. These requests started becoming a regular thing every weekend until I finally pumped the brakes and told her I couldn't do it. Around this time, Carla stopped paying me on Fridays. Her first excuse was she left her purse in the car and it got stolen. Her second excuse was her card was hacked and it was locked. And her third excuse was she was behind on her electric bill. Eventually, she just stopped making excuses and would go a couple weeks at a time without paying me. After a month of not being paid, I was put in a very uncomfortable position of telling her that I would not watch William until I was paid. She paid me immediately, but then again, she was late on payment the next week. It was very frustrating, and at this point, I probably should have fired her as a client. But she was my first client, and I had never fired a client before. Meanwhile, as the months were going on, William's behavior changed dramatically. He started hitting me, he started cussing at me, he started hitting his friends, and he started breaking things. He even stole a toy from my daughter and took it home. His sister told me about it, and when I asked Carla if she could return it, she never did, so we never saw it again. That's when I learned her and her husband John were getting a divorce. He was leaving her for another woman that they worked with. Up until this point, John was the sole person picking up and dropping William off. Once he left abruptly, Carla had to do it. She eventually accused me of intentionally starving William because apparently he would get in the car and beg and cry for food because he was so hungry. And I reminded her if she downloaded the app, she could actively see when and what meals I gave him. Every day I was giving all the kids 2 meals, breakfast and lunch, and 3 snacks a day that I would eventually turn to 2 snacks a day. At this point, I really should have let them go as a client because she obviously didn't trust me to take care of her child properly. But I convinced myself it was just an honest misunderstanding and kept them as clients. After John left abruptly, he never spoke to William again, and William's behavior became astronomically worse. But I didn't want to let Carla go as a client because she's a single mom now and she says she's struggling. She even told me that I need to hurry up and find a new man because I need help paying these bills. Now, Carla was not an ugly lady, and she did find that new man within the month. He was a firefighter, and we'll call him Gerald. And like that, Gerald became the new person that would drop off and pick up the kids every day, which concerned me for the kids' safety because Gerald was still a stranger. At this point, Carla was asking me to watch William every weekend, and I told her I just couldn't, but I'll help her find alternative childcare. I ended up hooking her up with this girl I knew from high school. This new girl ended up watching William a handful of times, and one night she called me up to inform me that Carla was talking about me to her. Carla had told this girl, who was my friend, that I did not pay my taxes, and that if she wanted to, she could report me for that. And she absolutely could, if it were true. But I did pay my taxes, and all my clients had my EIN number. She also mentioned to this friend that when I watched her daughter was so bored. And of course she was, because my program was set up for toddlers. My toys and activities weren't for her. After being told this information by my friend, I decided it was time to officially let Carla go. And after she was gone, I blocked Carla on all social media and started documenting everything that happened in my daycare and hung up cameras as my evidence in case she decided to retaliate. I will admit, though, I occasionally check out Carla's Instagram when I'm curious on how William is doing. Since leaving my program, Carla has married and divorced Gerald, but not before having Gerald adopt William and giving William Gerald's last name. And today, currently, she is married to a new man. And yes, William has that man's last name. After Carla, I did a complete policy and handbook change and covered every possible scenario that could happen between myself and a client as a way to protect myself in the future. I also had future clients that attempted to not pay me, but this time I let them go immediately. Lesson learned.